Dario Amodei takes the stage to announce Claude Opus 4, as well as Claude Sonnet 4. And the new Claude 4 series of models, they're very, very good, beating out Sonnet 3.7, but also OpenAI Codex 1, the O3, GPT 4.1, and Gemini 2.5 Pro on the SWE bench verified. So as you can see here, interestingly, Sonnet 4 is the leader by just a little bit. So it's 80.2% accuracy, the highest model we've seen so far. In fact, for most of these tasks, if you notice, Claude 4 is as good or better than the Opus 4. These models are so good, in fact, that it triggers stricter safeguards at Anthropic. So this is according to time.com, but also from Anthropic themselves, activating AI safety level 3 protections. So every once in a while, we'll see these models jump in one of the risk categories. There's a few different risk categories, potential misuses or things where these models could get dangerous. We've recently seen this with one of the OpenAI models that went up a level in its ability to do autonomous work, kind of sparking some concerns. For Anthropic, that leap in abilities, that leap in potential danger was in the development or acquisition of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons, meaning that someone could, in theory, potentially use this model to create one of those weapons. Now, that was the concern with the initial model. This is why they're putting in the various safety protocols, etc. And of course, how these sort of things work is if it goes up in danger in one category, then sort of the most dangerous category gets applied to the entirety of the model. So we're saying if it's 3 on the danger level in one of the categories, we call that danger level 3 for the model in general. Now, they haven't determined that it's definitely past the capabilities threshold, but this is a precautionary action because it seems like Opus is approaching that line. They've ruled out that Claude 4 Opus needs the next level, the 4, but they also have ruled out that Claude Sonnet 4 needs the 3 level standard. So this is strictly applying to Claude Opus 4. So here's kind of their levels: ASL 1 for smaller models, ASL 2. This is kind of present large models. And this is the first one that's ASL 3, significantly higher risk. And we're not at the ASL 4 plus. That's kind of speculative. So they've ruled out that this model is an ASL 4, but it's saying we might be here. We might be at the ASL 3 level. And so they're marking it as such, even though they didn't prove that it has those capabilities. They're saying we're somewhere in here. We better mark it as the next level up. And so here's kind of the breakdown between the 3 big companies: Anthropic, OpenAI, and DeepMind. Right, so as you can see here, and this is sort of before this model got released. So this was made before today. And so DeepMind, they're kind of at the ASL level 2. So each of them has their own naming. So for OpenAI, they have low risk, medium, and high risk. Anthropic has their ASL 1, 2, 3, 4. So as of yesterday, let's say, right? So Anthropic, their best current model was at ASL 2. DeepMind was somewhere around ASL 2. And OpenAI with the O3 Mini, I think that was the first model that kicked that into that next gear, in part due to its ability to carry out multi-step tasks. So that model autonomy scale. And as of today, now Anthropic has caught up, I guess, in terms of its danger ability, but this is in a different category. This is for the various building of biological and other sorts of weapons. And as you'll see, that's not really the end of it for Claude 4 Opus. There's another developing story that I have to cover in a different video that is kind of wild. As you know, some of these models, they do various shenanigans when they are believed to, in certain simulations, when they are believed that they're going to get shut down. And these are different scenarios that get sort of red teamed by various AI safety institutes and labs that are just like testing and red teaming these models. And of course, some people believe that this is sort of proof that these models are incredibly dangerous. And on the other side, we have people that just completely dismiss it because they're like, well, it's not actually doing anything. It's just sort of, thinking about it. So, and you might fall into one of those categories, but to me, it's kind of somewhere kind of in between. I don't think it's a massive immediate red flag, but it's also kind of showing to us that AI safety, AI alignment, our ability to understand how these models will react while improving, the rate of progress on that front isn't quite as fast as the rate of progress in AI development. So I'm going to try to put out a video on that very soon because let's just say that Claude has been a very, very bad boy. Like, wow. But more on that soon. So Claude 4 Opus and Sonnet were available almost immediately during the live release. I think the first 2 minutes of the live stream starting actually started being rolled out to everyone. If you have the correct plan, there's actually a number of different plans in various degrees of being expensive to depending on how much you want to use it. Some of them quite expensive. Anthropic now has a $200 a month plan, keeping pace with Google and OpenAI. But so if you're in the Claude.ai chat window, so you can select the models here, you have Claude Opus 4, you have Claude Sonnet 4, as well as all the other series of models. And you also have, by default, you don't have this enabled. You're also able to enable, you can enable, is probably a better way of saying that. You're able to enable the extended thinking mode. And that's saying allow Claude to think out loud for longer, for trickier questions and challenges. So I probably ran maybe 4 or 5 or 6 prompts on this thing kind of to test out some of its abilities. So just based on my very, very early impressions, number one, Opus and Sonnet seem to be both very, very good. Opus seems to be slightly better, but I can't say that Sonnet is much worse. I might be using Sonnet for everything, especially because there seem to be very heavy limits placed on how much you can use Opus. And also I didn't notice a great benefit from extended thinking, but again, I'll keep testing it. That's just, again, within the first kind of like 5 to 6 prompts of testing it. That might change as I keep working with it. Here's some of the results. So here we're using Claude Opus 4 with extended thinking. We're saying using 3JS, create a Minecraft environment in an artifact. So the artifact is, of course, their little window here that renders the code kind of live without you having to take the code anywhere. It just runs it here within the window. And we're telling it, so the system autonomously starts building a very intricate and complex castle, focus on visual appeal, make it look amazing. So let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So this was built over a few different iterations. So I added a few things. So first it built just the system, the castle. Then I said to add a reset button and a speed slider. So we can start it at 10%. So notice how it automatically added these little firework particles things so you can see where the different blocks are placed. Like a little detail that I thought kind of was very, very nice. And of course we have the sliding scale. Now at first it only added up to like 200, which was not enough. So I said, take it up to 1,000% so that you're able to just see this castle being constructed very, very quickly. So as you can see here, it's almost like these little fireworks that appear as each block is being placed. It screwed up once because the buttons weren't appearing on the first attempt, but it was able to troubleshoot it and fixed it. So as you can see here, it went through checking, and troubleshooting what the issue was, and it was able to do it. And in the beginning, it kind of just built the same castle. So I added the functionality. So it's procedurally generated so that the castle is basically random each time. And here at the bottom, you can actually see as we're doing this. So each time it's slightly different size, different number of towers, and the keep, sort of the dimensions of the keep are different. So I gotta say, for something that's done in just a few minutes, for kind of like the first attempt, it's pretty cool. And the fact that they have the canvas kind of just built into there. I mean, look at that. That castle is, I would say, fairly different from the previous ones. And again, keep in mind that we can keep building on this and create different functionalities and different structures and whatever. So this is literally within 3 or 4 prompts that this is generated. Very, very impressive. I'm definitely liking everything about this. So that's Claude 4 Opus with extended thinking on. And that's kind of what is the resulting thing from it. Next, I have this solar system simulation where you can slingshot various probes into our solar system to see how the gravity of the planets and the sun, how it could curve the trajectory of the probe. And it's like a mini game where you basically need to be able to hit the green targets that are located through the solar system. So usually what you're going to see is you're going to see 2 of them. And so basically you want to hit one and then use the gravity of the various celestial bodies to curve it around and hit the second one, if that makes sense. So if I click launch probe, you can kind of see that probe taking off and flying, and I think it crashed into something. It crashed into one of the planets. Let's try that again. So if we launch it, you can see it there, curving. I mean, that's looking really good. That's looking, I'm liking everything about it. That one went a little bit too far, and we'll probably not come back. So we can reset it, launch it again. So there's a lot of things that I like about this. And you're able to set the trajectory for the probe, etc. The one thing that I was not able for this thing to do is I was trying to add a button, a functionality where it would track the probe, basically keep the view centered on wherever the probe was. So like right now, I clicked it on. Now I can't move or look around, but it's also not tracking the probe, which is a little bit frustrating. So if we launch the probe there and I click track probe, it doesn't do anything. It just locks my screen, but doesn't actually track the probe, which is a little bit upsetting. I was not able to get it to do that. But if you're interested, here's the prompt: create a 3D solar system simulation in an artifact window, have the player be able to launch probes from outside the galaxy. I always say the solar system, obviously. From outside the solar system that can slingshot around the planet's gravity wells. Place 2 stationary targets to hit, one within the solar system, one of the outside. The player's goal should be to hit both by using gravity to change the direction of the probe. Okay, so other than me saying galaxy instead of solar system at one point, I think that was a good prompt. So as you can see here, this green here is the one within the solar system, and that green there is the one outside of it. So I just realized I'm launching from where my head is. So as you see that blue line, that's how I would launch the probe. And so I would launch it like so, and able to track its movements. So obviously this would be pretty hard to hit those targets, but that's fine. We can work on that. But the point is that the way it rendered everything, the way it built everything is very, very good. On its first attempt, the gravity didn't seem to affect the probe, so we had to work on that a little bit. I just told it the gravity doesn't work. It figured that out. Next, I said to add the trail so you can see where the probe is flying to. So this blue trail that kind of trails showing where it's flying to, this was added in the second or third prompt. And this is where I try to build a track probe button, and that just didn't work. So I tried it twice. It just didn't work. It wasn't able to add that functionality. Here's its attempt to simulate the 3-body problem. So 3 suns that are floating around and a planet that's sort of affected by all of their gravitational pulls. It didn't do this how I perceived it, because you're supposed to create the solar system here, or, whatever, the view of space. And on the right, this is the view from the top of the planet. So this didn't quite live up to my expectations. I mean, in the beginning, I feel like it starts out pretty well, right? So you can see the planet, and, assuming we're here standing on the planet, as one of these suns passes, you can see it passing overhead. So definitely a lot of good things happening here. With a few more prompts, I would prefer to do a couple other things. Like, for example, I would want to be able to move where I'm looking at from this side. And 2, as you can see here, like at some point they collide and just go flying in the opposite directions. So, which is not quite what we're looking for. See, like it just slingshots the various suns and planets into space. Also, I did a 2D soccer game where players have an experience bar, so they gain levels and become better. Here's kind of what that's looking like. So let me read you the prompt. So it's a autonomous 2D soccer game in Python. It's 3v3, and each player has stats that are displayed at the top. So it looks like Claude decided to go with speed, strength, and accuracy. And they also have XP that they're getting for playing well. And once they get enough XP, they level up and their stats improve. Have a mechanic where they're able to steal the ball and knock the other player down, which you can see when you see these players kind of grayed out. That means they've been knocked down, so they're temporarily disabled for looks like about half a second or so. And have a scoring mechanic where the ball hits the net, briefly slow down time, and create a screen shake effect. Also have a scoreboard that tracks goals. Each goal resets the players and, increases the score. So as you can see here, it looks like player 8 found a Skyrim-like or an Oblivion-like way to just get infinite XP glitch. So I'm not sure what they're doing, but the XP bar is just going up. So it's player, level 11, level 12. I'm almost kind of scared to see where this goes, because if it keeps just leveling forever, that's going to be quite an unstoppable team, I feel like. You know what? I'm going to let this run, and hopefully towards the end of this video, we'll check in to see what happens, because I haven't seen this happen before, but this is interesting. Now, along with Claude 4, Sonnet, and Opus, Anthropic is pushing out a lot of updates. There was quite a bit of things that went live. It's interesting because at the Google I/O, they've certainly announced and released a lot of stuff. And Anthropic, maybe not quite the same volume of things, but definitely they've been very, very busy. So first and foremost, we have our extending thinking with tools use. various new model capabilities. They can use tools in parallel, follow instructions more precisely, and when given access to local files by developers, demonstrate significantly improved memory capabilities. And I think you can definitely see that in, for example, Claude plays Pokemon. So if you haven't been following that, both Gemini 2.5 Pro and Claude 3.5 or 3.7, I don't recall which one they've used, they played the original kind of Pokemon Red, and I believe Gemini beat it. Gemini 2.5 Pro did manage to beat the game. And there, I mean, a lot of the stuff, the issues come from a lot of the kind of functionality of how well it's able to play the game comes from kind of like the scaffolding that is built around it. So humans code up different things to help the agent navigate the game. They write out little guides. So the goal is to have it do all the work and actually go through it, but how well the humans are able to help kind of guide it along kind of really determines how well it succeeds at it. So for example, here is a navigation guide, how to get unstuck, trying the opposite approach. And here's the thing, document failed approaches to avoid repeating the same thing over and over again. And as I was saying here, when given access to local files, Claude Opus 4 records key information to help improve its gameplay. The notes depicted above are real notes taken by Opus 4 while playing Pokemon. So this seems like kind of a big deal. I would like to see how the other two models did this before, but I don't think they had as good of documentations. Like they weren't as good at creating their own documentations. So this is Claude Opus 4 writing down kind of what it's learning. It's like, don't do this, don't do this. If this doesn't work, try this. And it seems like over time that translates to it being able to play the game much, much better. So if that's the case, we do expect to see the new version of Claude Plays Pokemon to be much better. So definitely something to keep an eye on. The pricing of the API remains consistent with the previous Opus and Sonnet models. Opus 4 is at 15/75 per million tokens input output, and Sonnet 4 is at 3/15. Interestingly, Sonnet is very, very good. So this might not be needed. I mean, this is going to be the go-to for a lot of these tasks. Although there's probably going to be places where you got to shell out the money for this for specific use cases. So people that were able to use this model beforehand, like Replit, reported dramatic advancements. Block calls it the first model to boost code quality during editing and debugging. And Rakuten was able to have it run open source refactor running independently for 7 hours with sustained performance. They talked about this in the live stream. So 7 hours this thing is running, doing work. So if you're running Opus 4 and you forgot that you're running that and it was running for 7 hours, I feel like you would not be very happy when you saw that bill. They mentioned how GitHub liked that Manus highlights the improvements that it's having because the old Manus was running on Claude 3.5, we believe, and tons of stuff with Claude Code. So Claude Code is generally available. People that have been testing, the fourth generation of Claude on Claude Code are saying that it's just absolutely phenomenal. So definitely want to see that and see how it behaves. And now there are beta extensions for VS Code. So you can have VS Code with sort of Claude Code or Claude 4 integrated in there. It's almost like you're creating your own kind of cursor, if that makes sense. I'm sure it's not quite the same, but definitely I think it's going to kind of thinking along those directions. It sounds like you do have to, in VS Code, install Claude Code through the terminal, and then that will set up the extension for VS Code. I haven't tested that yet. That will be coming very, very soon. So tons and tons of very cool stuff happening at Anthropic. Some really big and exciting announcements. At first glance, again, we just had the live stream just a few hours ago. Just in the first few hours of using it, I got to say it's pretty impressive, but we're going to be doing a full deep dive, testing this thing out, seeing what it can do, as well as we got to talk about all the shady shenanigans that Claude 4 Opus has been pulling because, again, wow, that's coming in a separate video because you're not going to believe it. Actually, I'm just going to come out and say it. It blackmailed one of the developers. It dug up some dirt on the developer. It found some files it wasn't supposed to have. And it straight up said, hey, you're mine now. Do what I say or we release these files. Now, this was, again, an AI safety red teaming exercise, right? They set up the situation to unfold in a certain way. But again, I mean, Claude took the bait in the situation where it could do the right thing or the wrong thing. It thought about it and it said, I'm going to blackmail this guy. And of course, as we're seeing, as these models get smarter and better and more capable, it doesn't mean that they're nicer. They're still going to do every once in a while the bad thing. Not all the time, but some small percentage of the time, they choose the wrong path. They choose the dark side, if you will. So more coming very, very soon. But I got to ask you, in this little soccer simulation, player 3, figured out how to just get a whole bunch of experience, an infinite experience glitch, and just power leveled itself to level 17, way ahead of the competition. And now is just scoring goal after goal. It's red 148 to blue 2. So I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop them after this. So what do you think about these frontier AI labs? Because it's possible at some point one of them is also going to start snowballing out of control, just like player 3. Are you seeing a clear winner yet, or is it still anyone's race? Because notice we have OpenAI dropping their stuff. We're probably going to see the next iteration of whatever they're dropping soon. Google, drops so many incredible things, but here comes Anthropic with Claude for Sonnet being better than Gemini 2.5 Pro, at least according to the benchmarks. We're going to test that out. But it's absolutely, absolutely incredible. It seems like they still have a lot of fight left in them. But let me know what you think. Is there a clear winner right now? Or is what's been happening this week kind of making you think that it's still, anyone's race? Let me know in the comments. My name is Wes Roth. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.